So it's very important the way you act and the way you manifest into this world. The vibration prior you taking that action, prior you setting your intentions and your words, that vibration has to be correct. This is why if, let's say, you enter in a relationship as a lover, as a couple, it's always best to start that relationship on the right foot, which means start it at a positive vibration. Hypothetically, you meet somebody you're madly in love with. You fall in love, you can't decide who you fall in love with. Let's say you meet somebody and you fall in love with them and you're like, wow, where have you been all my life? However, that person's married. So you can decide to cheat and be like, well, it's not my fault that when I found you, you were married, so let's just keep on keeping on. So you have that vibration, which I guarantee you, at the end of the day, that bad karma will come back to the relationship because you broke somebody's heart, you cheated, you went behind someone's back. These are not proper vibrations to start a relationship with, although you can feel like you're madly in love at the time. It's best to leave that third party or that other person prior, and then you can start a relationship. That person knows you're in love with them. They know. So they can do the right thing, which is to leave their current partner saying, I met somebody and I fell in love with them. I'm terribly sorry. This is, what happened. We weren't expecting this. And you break off the original relationship to pursue the new relationship. You give it time. You make sure you're healed. You make sure everyone's healed. Because what's this hurry thing? It's like, oh, the first day we have to, we have to be very intimate. The second day we have to take it seriously. The third day we have to talk about our future. There's no hurry. When you meet somebody and they're the right one, there's no reason why either or should be in a hurry. You guys can be friends and enjoy your presence. It doesn't have to escalate to a relationship right away. So always make sure that you started on the right foot, you started on the right vibration so that you can have the best of luck when it comes to this relationship. You can shower this relationship with positive energy and propagate that positive energy outward. But if you start by cheating or just, on the wrong foot, on the wrong vibration, you're always going to be paranoid that this person's going to in turn cheat on you when when the right time comes. You're always going to have these bad vibration lingering because you've solidified the relationship off on a bad vibration. So it's very important to set your vibrations, to set your intentions, and then either look for a resolution or look for expansion. But the vibration you begin with is very important, and everything is vibration. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to talk about gene key number 5. In last video we talked about gene key number 4. Gene key number 4, the shadow was intolerance. When you're intolerant, the introvert nature, the repressed nature is apathetic, and the extrovert nature is nitpicking. So once you see being apathetic and nitpicking doesn't work for you and it's not solving any problems, you move into the gift of understanding. So once you have a broader perspective, so it's not just knowledge, because knowledge, just intellectual level, will bring you to either nitpicking or apathetic manifestations. So once you come out of that, you hit the gift level of understanding. So it's knowledge plus your emotional intelligence plus your environment, your experience, taking time into factor, taking seasons into factor, and understand globally an aspect, a topic, or some type of entity so that you understand it instead of just analyzing data or facts. So once you leave the understanding world or the gift of understanding, you hit the city level. The city level is forgiveness. So once you see that knowledge leads you to understanding and understanding leads you to forgiveness, you've hit the city level of forgiveness where you don't hold any grudges anymore. You understand where people come from, why they act a certain way. You have further understanding, and therefore you hit the level of forgiveness. Forgiveness comes from the heavens, as above, so below. And therefore you apply something very acidic to the 3D environment, which is forgiveness. So you go beyond understanding, beyond knowledge. So in today's show, we're going to talk about gene key number 5. Gene key number 5 is very interesting as well. So all of these gene keys, so far so good. They're quite important. So gene key number 5, the shadow, is impatience. And I can tell you we've all been there. I know personally I've been there. We've all been impatient at some point in our lives. And we've learned through impatience that the only way to solve impatience is learning patience, which also comes with time. So let's start. So the shadow, the 5th shadow, impatience. It is the 5th gene key that really forms the backbone of the 64 gene keys. Containing all the codes and patterns of life, the 5th gene key represents the great digital library of consciousness and form. The 5th gene key is also one of those gene keys that is found in all life forms, since it alone maintains the very rhythmical patterns that allow an organism to stabilize within its particular environment. Furthermore, the 5th gene key, the great mystical chess piece within the genome, since it also unites all of these separate organisms into one great universal rhythm, the pulse of life. Because the 5th gene key binds all living forms through these universal patterns, at its lowest frequencies, it tends to display a deep distrust of life. This manifests in human beings through the 5th shadow of impatience. We all know that all human beings carry inside themselves a deeply ingrained fear of death. What you may not realize is that there are many layers around this fear. At the level of your personality, there is your outer fear, the prime fear pattern you absorb through the events of your childhood. This personal fear in turn gives weight to the great collective fears, for example, the fear of change. At the deepest level, however, at the very precipice of awareness, lie the most ancient human fears, and this 5th shadow represents them. These ancient collected fears stem from one prime source, the fear that there is no underlying order to the universe. If the frequency of your genetics is tuned into this fear, no matter what you do to try to bring a sense of stability to your life, your body itself will never feel safe. This is in fact the normal state of consciousness of the mass of humanity. Within the 5th gene key lies the great secret over the timing of life. This gene key is about trusting or not trusting universal rhythm and natural timing. It sets the rhythms of the seasons, it fixes the timing of cell growth and decay in every living creature, and it governs all patterns of animal and human migration. As we have seen, all distrust concerning the timing of life manifests in human nature through the 5th shadow of impatience. This impatience is one of the greatest causes of disease on the planet, for it will undermine your health and well-being and cut you off from the very heartbeat of life. In a certain light, impatience can be viewed by human beings as a positive trait, since and could goad you into action instead of remaining complacent. This is a mistaken impression, since impatience is rooted in agitation, and all actions arising from agitation is out of harmony with the whole. There is a vast difference between acting out of impatience and acting out of resolve. So it's very important the way you act and the way you manifest into this world. The vibration prior you taking that action, prior you setting your intentions and your words, that vibration has to be correct. This is why if, let's say, you enter in a relationship as a lover, as a couple, it's always best to start that relationship on the right foot, which means start it at a positive vibration. Hypothetically, you meet somebody you're madly in love with. You fall in love, you can't decide who you fall in love with. Let's say you meet somebody and you fall in love with them and you're like, wow, where have you been all my life? However, that person's married. So you can decide to cheat and be like, well, it's not my fault that when I found you, you were married, so let's just keep on keeping on. So you have that vibration, which I guarantee you, at the end of the day, that bad karma will come back to the relationship. because you broke somebody's heart, you cheated, you went behind someone's back. These are not proper vibrations to start a relationship with, although you can feel like you're madly in love at the time. It's best to leave that third party or that other person prior, and then you can start a relationship. That person knows you're in love with them. They know. So they can do the right thing, which is to leave their current partner saying, I met somebody and I fell in love with them. I'm terribly sorry. This is, what happened. We weren't expecting this. And you break off the original relationship to pursue the new relationship. You give it time, you make sure you're healed, you make sure everyone's healed, because what's this hurry thing? It's like, we the first day we have to, we have to be very intimate. The second day we have to take it seriously. The third day we have to talk about our future. There's no hurry. When you meet somebody and they're the right one, there's no reason why either or should be in a hurry. You guys can be friends and enjoy your presence. It doesn't have to escalate to a relationship right away. So always make sure that you started on the right foot, you started on the right vibration so that you can have the best of luck when it comes to this relationship. You can shower this relationship with positive energy and propagate that positive energy outward. But if you start by cheating or just, on the wrong foot, on the wrong vibration, you're always going to be paranoid that this person's going to in turn cheat on you when when the right time comes. You're always going to have these bad vibration lingering because you've solidified the relationship off on a bad vibration. So it's very important to set your vibrations, to set your intentions, and then either look for a resolution or look for expansion. But the vibration you begin with is very important, and everything is vibration. So there is a vast difference between acting out of impatience and acting out of resolve. Impatience is not a natural feature of human character. Rather, it is the result of a loss of your natural rhythm at a biological level. If you are feeling impatient, your breathing has become shallow and your nervous system is overactivated. Your core feeling is that all is not as it should be. Of course, this feeling is absolutely untrue. Everything is always exactly as it should be. What has happened is that you have fallen out of your natural state, the state of trust. Impatience is always rooted in the mind and as such is unique to human beings because of the unusual nature of our neocortex, which processes information in such a way that we perceive everything as happening in time, with a past, a present, and a future. The only way to escape impatience is to escape the mind and its realm of time, which is precisely what happens at higher frequencies of this gene key. The programming partner of the fifth shadow of impatience is the 35th shadow of hunger. These two states literally feed on each other. The hunger to escape the feeling of insecurity leads to impatience and vice versa. And it is all driven by the fear of time running out. In the modern world, you can really feel this deep-seated fear rippling through humanity. We have forgotten that life itself sets the patterns of evolution and that we are merely the agents of those patterns. From time to time, natural mutations occur when the stability of life is overturned. Nothing is really out of balance and that all will reveal itself in time. When something falls out of balance, the world has a way of naturally putting it in balance. So eventually it balances itself out. Because the fifth gene key connects all life forms into a wider pattern, you have to learn to realize that nothing happens by chance. Everything is connected to everything else. So when you find yourself moving through a difficult period, it means that all life is moving through a difficult period. This theme that punctuates your daily life or universal themes that are lived out by all humans and all creatures simultaneously. Our entire species is undergoing a deep genetic quantum leap. The very fact that you are reading this right now is telling you that life is examining itself in enormous depth. And in doing so, it is discovering all manner of anomalies or glitches in its programming matrix. As each glitch is observed, it is deleted. And as each fear is accepted, it diminishes. Beneath the old genetic code, a new one is thus revealing itself. This fifth shadow of impatience is nothing more than a low-frequency human response to a particular set of environmental conditions. At the highest frequencies of the fifth gene key, you do not even notice time. The more you become aware of your own impatience and restlessness, the deeper you begin to sink into your true center, and the less you are concerned with time and timing. This is the birth of a higher frequency, and that frequency is what we call patience. The fifth gene key contains the most beautiful of equations. Acceptance equals patience, because the deeper you enter into your fears, the more patient you become. So the repressive nature of this shadow is pessimistic. If you have a repressive nature, then you have at some level moved through some kind of energetic collapse. When impatience drives a person to give up on life, it manifests as pessimism. Pessimism is nothing but the vestige of a complete loss of rhythm in one's life. It is an expression of a deep-seated fear that nothing can or ever will get better. Pessimism pulls one into a downward spiral, feeding on itself over and over until it finally ends in crisis, or some kind of psychological or nervous collapse. If a person has been swept into pessimism, there is nothing proactive they can do to break free. As their friend or an observer, you must trust that life will create a crisis for them, because eventually it will. Only such a breakdown or breakthrough has enough energy to snap them out of their pattern. Reactive nature. So what happens if you're manifesting this extrovertly? You're pushing. The anger-based version of pessimism is pushiness. This is simply a different type of nervous system, and it reacts to impatience in an extroverted manner rather than collapsing inwards. Pushy people are constantly trying to force life's flow. I used to be very pushy. I used to think I can control everything and everyone. And I was able to do that up until a certain point, until everything snapped back at me. And I was like, all right, just so much you can control. You can't keep controlling, right? You can maybe control in the beginning, but you can't keep controlling a lifetime. So I was definitely in this extroverted shadow, trying to push people around or just try to push life into the direction I wanted life to go. I learned that mistake. Or not a mistake. I learned that lesson quite fast. They push others around, becoming aggravated, and can suddenly lash out for no apparent reason. These people also tend to manifest very inharmonious situations where natural timing is out of synchronization, and nothing seems easy, as though life were deliberately blocking one's path. Even so, these kinds of natures stubbornly push on, making the situation worse and worse until something or someone has to snap in order to release the pressure. You can see how resistance to the natural patterns of life eventually brings one to a turning point, both in the repressed or reactive natures. At such turning points, the only decision is really, do I want to begin living again? Whatever a person decides, it must be respected as a part of the wider pattern of life. So the gift. What's the gift of being impatient is patience. So the library of light. The antidote of impatience is patience. The ironic thing about patience, though, is that it takes patience to learn patience. And patience can indeed be learned. It is a self-proving gift. In other words, the more patient you become, the more you learn that patience always pays off, and thus the easier and more natural it becomes to wait. However, patience is not the same thing as waiting. Patience is the natural ground of your being, whereas impatience arises out of the fear and conditioning. Patience is about trust. If you trust in life, you will trust life in every moment, even the challenging moments. And in doing so, you will always remain in the flow. The most obvious annual rhythm can be seen in the shifting of the 4 seasons. That spring always follows winter, for example, in your daily life you will experience periods of winter where resources may be scarce, where you may feel lost for a while, or when you simply feel melancholy for no apparent reason. Such stages are built into life, and if you are patient, they change on their own accord, and they always reveal something magic. So that's like you trying to grow crops in the middle of the winter. You sure can. You sure can. You can like go outside and plant your plants, and then winter is gonna blow everything out and freeze it, and then the next morning you'll see that your crops are all dead. So that's a wonderful example. You can force the seeds. You can bring lamps. You can probably even put an aquarium over your plant outside for a while. You might be successful for a few days. But I'm telling you, eventually, I've lived in Canadian winter, so let me tell you that nothing lives out there. It's that cold. You also have to take in the wind factor and that everything freezes at night once, the sun goes down. So these are things we haven't really taken into consideration when we have the weather for that day. So if you take that into consideration, you can force it, you can use equipment, you can bring light, you can put a box of aquarium, you can do, and a tent. You can do everything in life, everything possible for you to have that plant grow outside. But it's not going to work because it's not part of the pulse of life to have greenery grow outside in winter. So that's why Marcus Aurelius says, control the things that you can control for sure. Absolutely. Do your best. That's why patience is not about waiting. It's not about waiting around, waiting for the world to happen, right? Patience just means that you want to grow a crop in winter. Well, unfortunately, the conditions that are out of your control will not allow you to do that, and you have to therefore wait till summertime. And if you wait till summertime, then you'll have your crop, no problem. But that's why patience is important, and that's why timing is crucial. Timing is so crucial. I've had things that happened to me when I was young, and I didn't really know why it happened, and then it happened later, which completes the entire story. So just as an example, I took music editing in university. I was in computer science and management information systems. This had nothing to do with music, but I had a few classes I was able to take and therefore as options, and I decided to take a minor in music production. So I never pursued music. I never did anything. Fast forward over a decade later, many years later, and I'm editing my own YouTube videos. And I'm actually very good at it because I have a base from a very long time ago. So if you'd have asked me in university, hey, why are you taking music production? Are you looking to be a music producer? I would have said no. And I would have said, I don't know why. I just had options and I decided to go through music production. I'm not sure why I didn't take painting or anything else. But now I understand. Because today, when I'm in the middle of my editing programs, I completely understand what I'm doing without even having proper editing classes or training. So that's why timing is important. Who would have known in the future I would have needed editing tools? I wouldn't have known this back in university. So a lot of times, timing is crucial. We just don't know why certain things happen. And this is why they say just go with the flow. You don't need to nitpick. You don't need to look into it. You don't need to, try to make sense of it. The time will let you know why certain things happen. The seasons will let you know when it's time to take certain actions versus other actions. And that's how you're going to go with the flow of life. And that's why you don't really need to know all 40 steps ahead. If you know the few first steps that are coming up, that's enough for you to guide you towards the right direction. So that's why when people want to, let's say, change their entire lifestyle, it becomes very overwhelming because they've lived a certain way for, let's say, 20 years. You can't change that overnight. If you think you can change your entire lifestyle overnight, you're going to be mistaken because we are creatures of habit. So even when it comes to diet, you have to do that gradually. So that's a reason why a lot of people are impatient because they're not taking the time into consideration, which is also part of our 3D matrix. They call it the fourth dimension, but it's part of this 3D world. As a vital element of the chemical family known as the ring of light, this fifth gene key plays a profound role within your genetics. Coding for an amino acid known as threonine, it determines the blueprint for how your individual cells trap light and convert it into energy. Through the magnetism of your living aura, you draw in or limit the frequencies of light deep into the cellular structure of your body. If you live your life out of fear, magnetically speaking, you limit the amount of life that touches your DNA. The more open-hearted you are, the more you magnetize higher frequencies into that very same DNA. It is only at certain frequencies that particular codes can be activated. When you're in love, for example, you will always experience higher codes within your DNA awakening. Time will pass differently, almost as if you were in a timeless bubble. And it's true, when you're in super high vibe mode, time stands still. You can witness the present moment very clearly, and you can see every second pass by. You're living fully in the moment, feeling every second pass by. And I meditate to get to this level because when I wake up, I'm like a million miles an hour. I get a million things to do. So I meditate, and then I can just literally be in the moment. And then you can slow time up. And once you slow time up, this is incredible. It's an incredible feeling. It's like it's like a feeling that nobody can take away from you. Even if horrible things are happening on the outside, your bubble, you're in a timeless bubble, and you can observe everything going on. I highly recommend trying it every day. Your DNA is a library of consciousness that is completely dependent on the frequencies of light. The body is designed to awaken to these higher frequencies, which is why humanity really only seeks one thing: to live in the state of love. The more you are able to settle into a deep trust and patience with the rhythm of your own life, the more your heart will open and the softer and more yielding you will become in your attitude to everything and everyone that comes your way. A code within a code. This code is not dependent on anything or anyone outside of you. The state of open-heartedness or of being in love is a completely natural human state. There are people in the world who live permanently in this state. And that's great because I've hit this state and then I've fall out of that state. I've hit it and then fall out of that. If you can permanently live in this state, that is heaven. That is incredible. If let's say you find a partner that does everything they can in their power to ease your pain, just imagine that. Everything they can do in their power to make sure you have a beautiful day. Just imagine. That's bold, that's courageous, that's incredible. And I know there's people living like that because I've seen them. And they're not a lot, but they're there. And just the fact that they exist is a proof that there are people living in this state permanently, and it's possible. You just have to get there. But it is done. I've seen it. And I couldn't believe these people are like on earth. They're very angelic. They're incredibly angelic. When you wait and allow life to reveal its natural rhythms, you also come to realize that life knows best. If you know how to wait calmly, you will realize that you are always a part of these wider patterns and that they actually support you at all times. So it's like my university example. I have no idea why I took those classes, but the universe knew that it was going to pay off. It's incredible. I couldn't have predicted better myself because if you would have known me back in university, I was not the same person at all. I was completely different. I was a completely different person. So I couldn't even have told myself that it would have come in handy. So it's incredible. And that's why they say to trust in the world, because trust in the universe. You have to have faith in the universe because nothing is done by chance. And the fact that we're going through what we're going through right now, which is really dark times in humanity, this is what I tell people. We were always in a toxic relationship. We just didn't know about it. We thought this was a great relationship and this was what healthy was and this was what love was. But now we decided to see and stop living in the bubble that we used to live, and now we see the relationship for what it is. So it's true, it's ugly. Nobody wants to go through a breakup, but you have full liberation, full freedom after and only after you leave a toxic relationship. And when do you leave a toxic relationship? When you find out it's toxic. You would have never left it before. So everything happens for a reason. And again, this book is here to let you know that evolution is going towards an incredible place. We just have to take the parasites out of us so that we can go forward in our evolution. And right now we're just taking the parasites. We're putting flea medication and we're taking proper action to go towards the light and not towards the darkness. So it's incredible times we're living right now, although it doesn't look like it. But I'm telling you, it's better to live in knowing what the truth is than not knowing what the truth is. If you know how to wait calmly, you will realize that you are always a part of these wider patterns and that they actually support you at all times, even the most challenging times. Above all, the gift of patience allows you to hear life's music. It allows you to breathe deeply into your belly and never feel trapped by your outer life situation. Patience smooths rough edges, keeps your heart and mind open, and makes life seem simple and easy. When you become impatient, even for a moment, you have stopped listening and trusting in the greater life. For these reasons, it is patience that has always been the true gauge and measure of the greatness of a person's soul. So how do you measure greatness of a person's soul? You look how patient they are. If they're extremely patient people, know that their soul is very, very old, advanced, experienced, and filled with wisdom. But if you see somebody super impatient, know that they're a brand new soul. They still have a lot to learn. So this is a wonderful measuring tool. So if someone's patient, and this is why you have to respect, or you should respect elders, because I've met some elders that are so patient, People think they're slow. They're not slow. They're not like in dementia. They're just very patient. They've learned to just talk when it's time to talk, to save their energy, not waste it. They've learned this. And therefore, they're sitting quietly in the room. It's not because they're slow. They figured it out with time because they're patient. And instead of saying, hey, they're slow, they maybe didn't understand what I was saying. No, they understood. Measure. Measure the greatness of a person's soul through their patience. And if you find that they're patient, know that that's what it is. That's why they're quiet. It's incredible. And it's a wonderful measuring tool. If there's ever a room filled with people, look at the one that talks the most and look at the one that talks the least. Wonderful observation. I highly recommend you to just test it out. The fifth city. So where does this fifth gift bring us? So the shadow is impatience. So when you're impatient, you either repress it internally. So when you repress it, you become pessimistic. And if you express it, you become pushy. So once you get out of that through the gift of learning patience, that eventually with time leads you to the CD level of what's better than patience? Timelessness. So once you hit the level of timelessness, that's where you hit the CD level, which is incredible because now time doesn't even exist anymore. Not only that you're patient, you've mastered time, which is where we all want to go. So the fifth CD, timelessness, hitting the speed of the being. So this is not the speed of light, but the speed of being. The speed of being doesn't have time. You've hit the speed of simply being, which is timeless. However, there exists an even higher truth hiding here at the acidic frequency. It is that all codes can eventually be transcended and are in fact designed to be transcended. This truth is momentous. What the shadow frequency views as a problem may actually be a higher genetic mutation waiting to be unlocked. Here at the acidic frequencies, codes can no longer be unlocked digitally, which means to say that the mind cannot comprehend them. Only the human spirit can unlock the deepest secrets in your DNA. It is here at the fifth city that the great secret known as enlightenment lies waiting. The highest code can only be awakened by the flood of high frequencies contained within the spectrum of light. This is why the ancients named the phenomenon of awakening enlightenment. The more you open yourself to higher frequencies of light, the more heightened the vibration becomes within your cellular DNA. Awakening usually occurs in a rhythmic or logarithmic manner. That is to say that the body is periodically flooded by higher acidic frequencies prior to full-blown enlightenment. The distance in time between such events decreases by approximately half every time it occurs. The body is readying itself for an experience that will alter its own functioning permanently. Every time you experience such an inflow of acidic high-frequency light, You move through an intense period of mutation in which any glitches in your genetic code are erased. This translates into experience as deep unconscious fears rising up to the surface of your awareness through the medium of your body. After such periods, your whole system must literally be rebooted. These times in your life can be very challenging and you may well experience some disorientation. As it nears this acidic threshold, the frequency of your body will begin to approach the speed of light. It is only when your frequency hits the speed of light that time finally dissolves and pure being is experienced. This is the higher purpose hidden in all human DNA, to hit the speed of being. So you have this darkness in your aura, right? So when you take in the light from the inside, and that's why you have to go in for that light to come out. So when you go inside and you meditate and you just bring in the light and your chi inside of you, you're going to see that some dark memories, some dark fears will come to the surface because the light is pushing everything out. So as it's pushing everything out from your chakras, from your gut, you're going to experience certain memories. That's why I say when you meditate, control your thoughts, because you can have certain really dark thoughts. And you can let them linger, you can observe them, absolutely. But you're going to see after a while of observing them, they're going to have a message for you. And once you see that message, you're going to see why these things are coming up. And then you can control it. You can say, this happened to me in my childhood. This is something I went through. It was a horrible vibration attached to it. But now that I'm looking at this from a much later point of view, from a much mature soul, I understand that that happened to me was a horrific thing. Yes, absolutely. However, I learned this lesson out of it. So because I've learned this lesson out of it, I'm actually grateful that this has occurred in such a long time ago, so that today I can see the beauty of this dark lesson. So then by doing that, you have a new vibration attached to that dark lesson. It's a much better vibration. It's a vibration of being grateful. It's a vibration of being forgiving, understanding. And then when you have that new vibration attached to that thought isn't going to linger anymore. And that's why I'm saying you can control it, because a lot of people cannot control their thoughts. So you first observe, then you understand why it's there, and then you can make it go away by dissolving it, by telling yourself, you know what, that happened to me actually gave me a huge lesson. And I don't want it to happen again. But now that it did happen to me, this is what I'm taking out of it. So by pushing it like that away, you're erasing your glitches, you're erasing the bad data, the bad programming, the bad coding into newer codes, newer mutations, and newer light. And once you do that to the point where you have no more darkness, where just light is beaming out of you, once you have that, you hit that enlightenment level, and that's where they say you're just pure being. You're living at the speed of light, which is the speed of God or source, which is the speed of pure living. Now it's not your thoughts anymore. It's not your brain anymore. You're just purely light. And it's incredible. I'm not there yet, but I know it exists because I've seen it. I've seen people hit that level. And it's incredible. But again, you have to be so filled with light that you don't have no more darkness lingering or attached to you, and you're capable of resolving all your traumas by erasing the old vibration and replacing it with a newer vibration. At the level of the fifth CD, patience itself is completely transcended and something wonderful happens. You as a separate entity cease to exist. That's why they say we become one. We become one with everything. Impatience and patience are two ends of the same spectrum, and as such, they are rooted in the existence of time. There is a fascinating lesson to be learned from the spectrum of consciousness, and patience is the only key that allows you to see this lesson. All beings in life are waiting. Life itself can be seen as a waiting for death. The moment you're born is the day you start dying. And people know this. We each wait for the future to reach into us. And as it does, so we see what life has planned for us. Consciousness dances through our vehicles in the unique archetypical patterns. Sometimes we may find ourselves struggling in a shadow state, whilst at others we feel a deep sense of peace. Our lives are like the candle flame flickering in the winds of duality, impatience to patience, fear to trust, and back again endlessly. A Siddhic state is different from this. In the Siddhic state, you have jumped out of the game. You are not identified with the candle flame, even though it may go on flickering. You cannot talk in terms of time or identity. This is the meaning of the Siddhic state of timelessness. Timelessness is the nature of consciousness itself. It is unborn and undying. Timelessness does not care whether the body exhibits patience or impatience. It simply is. Timelessness is thus the death of all fighting. Patience and impatience are not absolute states. They are the poles within life, experienced through human awareness. Only timelessness is an absolute state, a Siddhic state. Most of the siddhis are actually very ordinary. They occur when the set of patterns that you call yourself finally experiences itself as nothing more than a set of patterns. At this point, consciousness sees itself, and the awareness operating through you is never quite the same again. That's like the double split experiment. Once you observe, once you see what happens, everything changes. So once you observe yourself and you see the way you are, you see all the patterns and, oh, I took this from society, I took this from my parents, I took this from my siblings. Once you see that everything you are made of is just a bunch of patterns, then you'll never look at yourself in the same way. You'll understand yourself in a much more deeper way. When you stop trying to leave the shadow frequency, only then can the paradox happen, when there is no more fighting left in you. The more deeply your mind grasps the fact that you cannot do anything in life, the more you must begin to surrender both to your smaller genetic nature and your greater galactic nature. In the end, only timelessness will tell. So I love this gene key. I love them all, but I also love this one because when I was young, I was very impatient. I tried to control everything, and it's true. You have to start with that. You have to start with your shadows. You have to start with being impatient. So like that, you can force things, you can force people, you can plan out your life and make sure that, physically that's what happens. Once you see that doesn't work for you, you learn to be patient. You learn to take time into consideration. You learn that there are seasons in life that you can't force certain things, you can't force certain people, and you gotta wait. You gotta wait. So once you're waiting, you're expecting, because you're not like, I'm waiting now. Where's my gift? Where's my manifestation? I'm waiting. I'm patient. But that's why they're saying patience is not waiting. Patience is just knowing and trusting in life that your hard work will pay off. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. So once you're done being patient, you're like, you know what? I'm not going to be patient anymore. I'm just going to be. I'm going to go with the flow. I'm going to go with the wind. If the wind goes this way, I'll go this way. If the wind goes this way, I'll go this way. Now, they're not saying do it aimlessly. If you see that, going with the flow is actually helping you remain high vibe, it's helping you not resist, it's helping you stay high vibe, then you go with the flow. But if you see the flow is taking you downwards, let's say your thoughts, you're going with the flow of your bad thoughts, let's say, and you see that you're spiraling downwards into lower vibrations, then you can adjust that flow back and go towards your high vibe and your happy place. So the best compass is your happy place. Your happy place can be different for anybody. Some people it's their family, some people it's traveling, some people it's money. Whatever your happy place is, just make sure that you go back to your happy place. You go back to being happy. And if making money is, happiness, then, go and make money. If spending quality time with your friends is your happiness, then spend quality time with your friends. If you love to eat food, then go try a new restaurant. So whatever your happy place is, just go back to it whenever you lose that flow. But if not, if that flow leads you to more happier places, then for sure keep going with that flow. No matter what, it's a flow. It's a flow that you got to keep on being. It's like a river you don't want to get off. So from being impatient, you learn to be patient. And from being patient, you learn to be timelessness, which means anything, anyone, can happen anytime and I'll be ready. Anytime, anything, I'll be ready. Because I've hit the speed of light, I've hit the speed of being. That means I'm so comfortable being who I am that I'm not waiting for anything anymore. Anything that comes to me, I can handle it. And I love this gene key because I've learned with life that that's how the best way of living is. You can't determine your future. So the best thing is to find every day as a miracle. You wake up grateful and you say, world, what do you have for me today? I'm up for the challenge. Bless me. Bless me with an adventure today. And let's see where that leads me. It's a wonderful place to be. And at that level, you have full trust. Full trust that the universe has your back and they can just go with the flow and you don't need to resist anything anymore. So thank you very much. This was again a wonderful gene key. I love talking about these gene keys. Please let me know how you feel. Feel free to comment and let me know what your interpretation is. Let me know what impatience led you to become patient. We all have our stories. And yeah, like if you do like this video. So thank you very much and see you on the next gene key. Ciao.